We are going to discuss about Renin-Angiotensin-Aldosterone System. It is a system that controls our blood pressure and blood volume. Alright, so when there is a decreased blood pressure sensing by juxtaglomerular cells or decreased sodium delivery to macula densa cells, or there is increased sympathetic tone, so that all three factors will lead to increased renin secretion by the juxtaglomerular cells. So when the renin is released by juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney, so there is angiotensinogen present in the blood that was secreted by liver. So this renin will convert that angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. So our livers and kidney will secrete as angiotensin converting enzyme that will convert this angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, and this angiotensin converting enzyme will help in the bradykinin breakdown. Alright, so this angiotensin 2 will work on different parameters to help in increase in blood pressure. So first of all, it helps in maintain blood volume and blood pressure, effects on baroreceptor function, limit reflex bradycardia, which would normally accompany its precursor effects. So what are baroreceptors? So baroreceptors are present in carotids. So these are a sensing system when there is a low blood volume or low blood pressure. These baroreceptors will sense that and send the signal to our brain system, and the brain will increase our sympathetic tone. That will result in increased heart rate and increased renin, and will help in increased blood pressure. So when there is an increase in blood pressure, the baroreceptor will sense, and what they will lead to decreased sympathetic tone and increased parasympathetic tone. Decreased sympathetic tone, so there will be a limit. They will help in controlling our heart rate, that is known as reflex bradycardia. So when there is increased blood pressure, baroreceptors acts to decrease that by using reflex bradycardia. So there is a question, why there is a reflex bradycardia with hypertension? So the answer is, when there is increase in blood pressure, our baroreceptors will sense that, and they will send the signal to brain to control. So our brain will decrease sympathetic tone and it will increase parasympathetic tone. That will result in reflex bradycardia. So angiotensin 2 will act on angiotensin 2 receptors type 1 on vascular smooth muscles. So these helps in the vasoconstriction, and by doing that, when these vessels are constricted, so the blood pressure will be increased because there is a less place for blood volume to, so that is why there will be a increase in blood pressure. So this angiotensin 2 will constrict our afferent arterioles of glomerulus, so that will eventually result in increased filtration fraction to preserve renal function in low volume states. So when there is decreased renal plasma flow, this will help to increase filtration pressure, as we has already studied that how angiotensin 2 helps in Alright, let me get you to that diagram first. Okay, so as we already studied that point, so angiotensin 2 constrict afferent arteriole, and it will result in decreased renal plasma flow and increased GFR. So there will increase filtration fraction. So as you can see, we already studied that. So this all will happen at this place. Okay, so the another parameter that will control hypertension is the angiotensin 2 will work on aldosterone that is secreted by adrenal cortex. So this angiotensin 2 stimulates the adrenal cortex to release aldosterone. So this aldosterone will increase sodium channel insertion and increase activity of sodium potassium pump in the distal convoluted tubules or in the collecting ducts. Yes, so it enhances potassium and hydrogen excretion by way of principal cell potassium channels and alpha intercalated cells hydrogen ions ATPases. So this all will lead to create a favorable sodium gradient for sodium and hydrogen reabsorption. So let me get you to that portion, as we already studied that. So here are the collecting tubules, here are the principal cells and alpha intercalated cells. So as you can see, aldosterone acts on mineralocorticoid receptors, how protein synthesis occurs. So in principal cells, increase apical potassium conductance and increase sodium potassium pump, increase epithelial sodium channel activity. Lumen negativity will result in increased potassium secretion. So in alpha intercalated cells, there will be, due to lumen negativity, there will increase hydrogen ion ATPase activity that results in increased hydrogen secretion that will lead to increased bicarbonate ion and chloride ion exchanger activity. So let's get back to our topic. So this is how aldosterone works to increase blood pressure. Another parameter is antidiuretic hormone that is secreted by posterior pituitary. So angiotensin 2 will send signal to pituitary gland. So that gland will secrete antidiuretic hormone that will increase aquaporin insertion in principal cells. So these aquaporin insertion will also lead to hydrogen reabsorption, so that will results in increased blood pressure. So let me show you that how. So here you can see antidiuretic hormone that is binding with V2 receptor results in aquaporins on vesical membrane. So there will be increased water reabsorption. Alright, so acts on V2 insertion of aquaporin H2 channels on apical side. Let's get back to our topic. So another parameter where the angiotensin 2 work is the proximal convoluted tubule. Sodium hydrogen activity will be increased, so that will result in increased sodium bicarbonate and water reabsorption. This can also permit contraction alkalosis. So the angiotensin 2 also stimulate hypothalamus. So hypothalamus is our body control system, so that will stimulate the thirst mechanism. So when a person is thirsty, he will drink more water. That will also lead to increased blood pressure. So there are atrial natriuretic peptide and brain natriuretic peptide. These are released from atria. ANP and ventricles will release BNP in response to increased volume. When the volume is increased, so these may act as a check on Renin-Angiotensin-Aldosterone System. These relaxes vascular smooth muscle through CGMP. So there will be increased GFR. When there is increased GFR, that will lead to decreased renin. Yes. So these will help in the dilation of afferent arterioles and the constriction of efferent arterioles that will promote natriuresis. When afferent arterioles are dilated, so there is more blood perfusion to the kidneys, and on the other side there is constriction of efferent arterioles, so the glomerulus will get more time and more blood to filter, so that will lead to natriuresis. So antidiuretic hormone primarily regulates osmolarity, also responds to low blood volume states. So as we already studied, aldosterone primarily regulates extracellular volume and sodium content, responds to low blood volume states, responds to hyperkalemia by increasing potassium excretion. So this potassium excretion also occurs in the collecting ducts, as we already discussed about that, like how sodium is reabsorbed in exchange with potassium and hydrogen ion. Alright, so another topic is juxtaglomerular apparatus. This consists of mesangial cells, juxtaglomerular cells. These are modified smooth muscles of afferent arteriole, and the macula densa, that is a sodium chloride sensor part of distal convoluted tubule. So juxtaglomerular cells secrete renin in response to decreased renal blood pressure and increased sympathetic tone, and macula densa cells sense decreased sodium chloride delivery to the distal convoluted tubule. This will also result in increased renin release. So the afferent arterioles will be constricted, or their vasoconstriction, so that will lead to increased GFR. So juxtaglomerular apparatus maintain GFR via Renin-Angiotensin-Aldosterone System. So beta blockers can decrease blood pressure by inhibiting beta-1 receptors of the juxtaglomerular apparatus, so that will result in decreased renin release.